What is going on, and welcome on into today's September day trade recap video. We're going to do a deep dive through our trading analytics here, and we're going to see what the biggest takeaways for the month of September are, and then how we can improve going forward. So I flipped myself onto the left side of the screen, so I'm not covering a lot of the good data. All I am covering is this Zella score, which don't worry too much about that. And then underneath me, there's some recent trades, which just tells you the trade, the symbol, the P&L, the date. Doesn't matter. We'll get into all the good stuff. I'll pop myself off the screen so you can see everything when needed. And let's dive in. So here is a look at the month. Now, this month, I will say a couple overarching things I want to mention. And this video may be a bit long, but it's the intention behind this video is to be a detailed dive through my analytics. So I'm hopefully going to learn something for myself here. And then hopefully there's something that you can take away from something that I'm tracking, a way that I'm thinking about how to improve that you can take and apply to your own trading, your own life, right? That's what the whole point of these videos are. You're not going to be able to copy exactly what I do. No, it doesn't help. It's not helpful. So that's where we live. Now, inside of this dashboard, this is on TradeZella. I have talked about them before. This is my favorite platform for journaling trades. There's other good ones out there, but this is by far, hands down, my favorite. Makes it so super easy, and I will always leave links to them down below this video if you want to check them out. And it is an affiliate link. But that said, we finished the month with 45 trades. Kind of a lot, but 45 trades and down $308 is... When I look at that, do I say to myself, that's a lot? No, I'm not very mad, about that. It's actually like not terrible. It's fine. It's just, it was a red month. Okay, it is what it is. Now, the ways to correct this. At one point, we were up on this month. We started the month off horribly with essentially a max loss day, the second day of trading. Back here on Wednesday the 6th was a max loss day, essentially. I literally traded like 3 times that were not the strategy. Like my strategy, I just disregarded and traded 3 times and then lost like 3 times without it. It was like, okay, well, that's dumb. After that, we made some corrections, and then we had a 7-day green streak. We were green for 7 days in a row. Now, inside of this green streak, this is kind of like the, top-down stuff that what I can tell you before the data talks to me. The data is going to talk. The data is king. But what do I think? Like what kind of goes into this before the data, right? So we had that mess up, and we're like, okay, we got to correct this. It's not good. Beyond that, we had 7 days of solid, I would say, trading. And now, when I say solid trading, like these were not good days from the market and my strategy's perspective. Like we did not have a lot of clarity. We actually had a lot of choppiness. These were just days where I was able to maximize the winners, keep the losers small, and so we would net green. Whether that's, for example, a lot of days here, 2 trades, 3 trades, 1 trade, 2 trades, 2 trades. We had a lot of days or a lot of trades inside of here where we either would lose on the first one, win on the second one, and then net green, because our winner was bigger than our loser, which the data will tell us that was also the case here. We'll get into that in a second. Or we would have a nice move and a partial take profit gets hit. So some of our position gets taken out, then the rest of it gets stopped. So then we'd have that scenario as well. Stopped back at break even. So we'd have a small green. There was only one day, and that was on the 15th. That was this day right here. If you can go back. I have literally posted every single trade recap for this entire month. I think you can even go back to last month. We started last month. This entire month, every single day has a date attached, and there's a playlist called Trade Recaps. Go back to this 15th video if you want to see it. That was just a perfect setup. Worked great. It was clean, and that's all. That was one that was like great. That worked like right in line with the system, the strategy. Like great. Not everything's going to do that, but that one was just good. Other than that, it was like clean, not choppy, not clean. It was not working optimally. Beyond that, then we had some red days. We ended up going on a 5-day red streak. And then after that, we had some greens and some reds. And really these are some break evens. These under $50, in my view, is a break even day. It's not really a big P&L, which do the math there. If under $50 is kind of like, in my consideration, a break even day. Is $300 of red that big of deal? Not really. So honestly, pretty close to a break even month all in all. If I had not made the mistakes and gone, on tilt, if you want to call it that, on the second day of the month, pretty much a break-even month. And so per my strategy, not bad. I'm not going to complain. But here's where I want to get into some of the details, because now we move on to the top of the screen. So our net P&L, great. We lost $308. Trade expectancy, this is essentially on average based off of my data. I take a trade, I can expect to lose almost $7 on average, just based off of the data. Now, of course, is that very helpful? Not really, because it's only been a month. Like if we're talking about the past 6 months, year, 3 years, this data is more important, and it's probably going to be averaged out a lot better. And I'll have a pretty good working system that I'll know, like, okay, like I'm, pretty darn accurate in terms of how I'm executing. So like this is an accurate number. But based off of this month, like that is kind of what we're expecting on average per trade. Do the math, I guess. If you do the math, right? What's the math there? 6.84 times 45 trades gets you 308 essentially. So we had 45 trades. We lost $308. Do the math. Divide 308 by 45. You get that number. That's how that comes about. Our profit factor is 0.81. Under 1 is not profitable, as we can see. And then our trade. Here's where it gets interesting. So our trade win percentage was 37.78. Okay. Our average win loss. This is a number that I'm actually very happy with, 1.34. And guess what? In my opinion, despite this number, I say I'm happy with that number. I know that number on a decent month can be way better. We're talking like 1.5 or more. Why is that the case? We just didn't have a lot of days like the 15th where we had clean, nice price action, nice movements, and then take profits hit, and then it was, a full-on trend or a full-on, continuation move. So that's not going to happen all the time. But if you get for example, 5 days out of the month that are like that are nice, clean, and then I minimize and don't have these big not blow up days, but max loss days where I'm just going on tilt, trading against my strategy, right, or whatever. This number is going to get better. So on average, I win on winning trades. We make $78, and on average on losers, we lose 58 roughly. So that's, in my view, everyone's different. Obviously, that was not enough to make a 37% win rate profitable. But if you get this win rate, you can do the math. If this win rate nudges up a little bit over 40%, this is pretty much a profitable system you got going on here. So you don't need to go crazy. Now, I know I can do better than that, but interesting nonetheless. I'm going to go back to last month. So the map on the bottom here, I'm going to adjust this. Here's August. So you have August on the bottom. You've got our P&L for August across the top as well. How do we compare to, is that the same? Is that the exact same number? Holy crap. That's crazy. That's actually crazy. That's the exact same average win-loss in August. I guess ratio. Our average winner in August was over $90 and our average loser was 67. So a little bit larger on the numbers, but it came out to the same thing, which is kind of funny. So to me, that's good. That's fine. I'm happy with that. Our win percentage in August was slightly higher, but honestly around the same number. So that's pretty consistent. Our trade expectancy was honestly similar, and we lost 437. So the problem in August that I have gone back and talked about is I had 74 trades, dude. That is too much. And it's funny because I felt Then when you take that many, I think 50 plus, it takes a massive toll on your mental. So the mental aspect, I think, is huge if you are consistently doing that. Some people can do it. Personally, for me, I'm not. It's not for me. So I'm happy we had less trades, but around the same numbers. Just do the math. Take an extra whatever trades. It's going to be a little bit more red. So this is just comparing to last month. Honestly, numbers are pretty similar. All in all, I think the market conditions were fairly similar as well. So just kind of, going off of that. Okay, fair enough. Now let's go back to this month, and then let's go over to the left-hand side here. I'm going to scroll down to where we go to, let's go to reports. Here's where we're going to get into the dirty details. I'm going to pop off the screen so we have the full screen ahead of us and we can see everything nice and clean. Boom. Okay, so here's the overview. Like, it has the net P&L. A lot of this stuff is some we can take away, but other stuff, there is good information inside of here. Not surprising. And so when I say not surprising, let's dive in. Largest profit was 160. Largest loss was 128 this month. That's good. I mean, I'm happy. I didn't even realize that. I'm happy to see that we did not have, a massive loser. Like, we kept the losses on average, right? And the numbers tell us, nice and tight, which is good. Average hold time for winners, 32 minutes. Losers, 16 minutes. Not surprising, because losers usually hit the stop loss fairly fast. So when we lose, it's usually like pretty quick that we lose, which is, kind of expected in my opinion. Going through here, winning days 10, losing days 8. Some of these days are break evens, but they're not tracked that way necessarily. And then a lot of the same stuff we were talking about. Okay, cool. What about the detailed section? This is where we get into a lot of the fun stuff. Okay, let's see. So going through this past month, what you will notice is that we took the majority of our trades Tuesday through Friday. Mondays, not as much. We also lost Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. We were red. We were actually net green. So we were actually green on Thursdays and Fridays this month. Interesting. Is this enough data for me to start going, okay, I'm never trading Monday through Wednesday again? No. But interesting how that stacks up. And you can go back to last month. Let's go to last month and see. Is it consistent with last month? No. So I want to track this over the course of many months personally to see if I have more consistency in that data. But it's cool nonetheless. Weeks, I don't really care too much about this. Months, again, it's just 1 month. Time. Here's what's a little more interesting. This is, I don't have, like, this is not as clean. What it tells me is that, like, the morning, like the beginning of the day was choppier and I was not able to operate very well. As things kind of slowed down, it became a little bit easier. I lost less, kept stops tighter, and then I was able to keep stops tighter, and then I was also able to have some winners. That's what that tells me. Not super clean. If we go back to last month, was it more consistent? Not, kind of the same. Last month, we just didn't do well in the morning. So what this tells me, what this might tell me, is if September and August are similar in terms of future years, it might tell me, and having this data is really nice because now I can go back and say, hey, when we start seeing choppy environments, okay, avoid the first hour or 2 hours of the day because we tend to lose. So if our strategy loses during those hours, like, why would we trade them? Or tends to lose more often than not. So that's actually a really good stat to have. But again, the more data, the better. Trade duration, not surprising here that the shorter trades are losers because our stops are getting hit fairly fast. And then the longer trades are where we had more green because those are the ones that are trending. And generally speaking, when they're trending in our direction, we're just taking profits and locking it in and just letting it work, right? So that's not surprising on that. Price of the options. This has been a consistent theme for me for a long time. I only traded 7 contracts, I believe. Or no, sorry. Maybe this is trades. 7 trades in the $5 to $10 range by option price. And those were all my green trades. And everything else underneath 5 lost. This is consistent. If you go back to last month, It's consistent there again. And if you were to go back beyond that, it's even more consistent. If I were to go back through April 1st to now, I think it's even more. Yeah, I mean, it's not even. I mean, not as clean. But the cheaper the contract, the worse I tend to do. Now you can't. I don't trade that many above $10. I haven't. So I mean, you only have so much data here, But the cheaper the contract, it's not even close. I do so much worse, like way, way worse. So interesting data, but that's good stuff because now I know to avoid. I try to avoid that, right? Play contracts that have a little more value. Play contracts that are a bit higher in price. I don't know exactly what it is. Is it just the volatility? I think it might have to do with it, right? Volume, not really a deal. Here's another piece that's cool. Okay, what are my top stocks? So this month, my top stock was AMD, Amazon, and Tesla. Not surprising. I like AMD. I'm a pretty big Tesla fan as well, as many of you know. I traded the most of my trades on Tesla and Meta this month. Meta was actually a pretty decent, lost me some money, and Apple was just, again, a big loser. The thing with Apple is that Apple, for me, if you go back to last month, was the same thing. Apple was my biggest loser. So I have not had a good handle on Apple for whatever reason, and probably a good stock to avoid trading, honestly, at this point going forward. Setups. Here's where we get into some of the meat. So setups. I had really three setups. Bear flags, bull flags, and then failed breakouts in a larger downtrend. So essentially a failed bull flag. I call them bear and bulls. That you can call them, consolidation breaks, momentum upside, downside, whatever you want to call them. They're not going to be the standard like perfect bull flag or bear flag look. It's just kind of how I want to categorize them. So essentially it's the same thing. For a bull flag, move up, consolidate, break the top of the consolidation for the next leg of that breakout. That's a bull flag for me. Bear flag will be move down, consolidate, break the bottom of the consolidation for the next leg down. That's the bear flag setup. Not surprising, I traded more bear flags than bull flags this month, right? Not surprising. That's not very surprising to me because the market was down. Not by much, though. Only actually one more than bull flags. But here's where it gets interesting. The bear flags netted us red. The bull flags netted us green. And then this essentially the inverse of our system. Failed breakout in a bigger picture downtrend netted us green as well. Interesting that the downside consolidation break, so essentially downside momentum, despite the market trending down, those trades did not actually work for me. Funny how that works. Really, it is. So interesting piece there. Again, into the mistakes section, overextended stuff was a mistake. Higher time frame not aligned, a mistake, meaning like, okay, I'm playing along, but we're trending down the past couple of weeks. That's higher time frame not aligned. And then entered early. This is something that I've noticed in the past too. It was the same thing last month. This has been a positive. I tend to be good at anticipating the break. So if there is a mistake that I should be more lenient with myself about making, it's entering early. Don't want to take that for granted, but just, it's something that I have netted more gains on than losses. Okay, tags. Here's where I tagged my trades. I had breaking candle, retest fail. This is more so, this should be really red, just for me to test. I was going back through to kind of check to see how many situations where we had the breakout candle up or down, the high or the low of that retest, once that retest occurs and it breaks. So for example, if the move is up and you break out of let's say that the resistance level is $250 breaks, that candle goes to 250.25. You enter in, and the low of that breaking candle was 249.26. If we come back after breaking out, not making a big push, we come back and break down below the lows of the candle, the 5-minute candle that broke out. That is where my stop losses are now going to be placed most of the time, because I have found that once that breaks, we almost always, like, we actually always lose the trade. Like 95% of the time, we literally lose the trade. So then it would just save me a little bit of money in terms of making sure my stop loss is not beyond that. Inverse of the system actually worked. So cool. We had some trades that were the opposite of my strategy kind of. And they kind of worked. I just want to tag them that way. And then not to system. To the system. So if we just traded only my strategy to a T, nothing else, no other things, I've tagged every single trade here, either to the system or not to the system, and or inverse of the system. So if you did the math and I avoided these trades that were not to the system, probably would be green this month. But that's the greed factor, and that's a piece of the pie that you have to take into consideration. I don't take multi-day, all-day trades, and there's some more pieces to the puzzle here we can dive into. This is kind of cool. Let's look at some of this. So, performance by opening gap. When we gap down, I did better. When we gap up, I don't do great. That's this month. Inside range day was green. Outside range day was not too good for me. Interesting. By the S&P, I believe, standards. So that right there, we can go into the options as well. This is another piece I want to pull up. So I kind of dialed this in a lot better by the end, and that was figuring out when I want to have my expirations. I now have expirations. It's the next Friday, no matter what. So if it's currently a Friday, I am playing next Friday contracts. On Monday, I'll play the next Friday contract. So on Monday, it's like a week. It's almost 2 weeks out. So that's how I'm playing it. So I dialed that in this month. Just need to kind of work that through to make it make sense. That's what I determined on that. There's more to dive into here. I don't want to dive too deep into this because you can get into a lot more detail, but we kind of covered the majority of what we're looking at here. So if we go back to our overview, go back to our dashboard, pop us back up on the screen, that right there in a nutshell was September. So what are the takeaways in my view? One of the takeaways is we need to, again, do a better job of limiting trades not to the system. Now, we did trade more against my system last month than this month, so I'm happy with that, but we still need to limit, and that was really on this day right here. The majority of it came right here. Limit that. The next thing is no cheap options. Too volatile, it seems like. That's what my guess is. No cheap options, not going to do that. The next thing is going to be going deeper into coming months. I want to make sure that I stop out underneath that breaking candle low or high, if it's the downside. If I do that, I'm going to be good. Now, where my head kind of goes, if the market is going to trend up into the end of the year, we'll see. I don't know. Maybe seasonality works this year. If that's the case, then I think we've got a decent opportunity to play the upside because we've been better at it. So I'm interested to see if that continues. We've been better at upside. I don't know. I don't think it's I personally I think the downside moves tend to be more fun. That's just from like what I happen to see. But the data just tells me the past 2 months, the past month specifically, hasn't been as good. So now I know this stuff. Taking that with a grain of salt, I can apply this to my trading going forward. So the biggest priorities is going to be get the win rate up, keep the average win-loss where it's at. If not, get it up even more. Be awesome. And then avoid anything against our strategy, trade the strategy, and see where the chips fall. So that is this month's September 2023 day trading update. All these were day trades. All these were options. I am very close to moving over to shares via a prop firm. They can connect to TradeZella, so I'll be able to do the same things on that. But I'm very close to doing that. It may be sooner rather than later. If not, maybe around Thanksgiving time. That's another piece. Now then, that's going to add a whole other little wrinkle. Same strategy stuff, but it's going to add a little wrinkle into, how there may be a little bit of learning curve there as well. I've been practicing on a demo account just to make sure, but I think that's what we're going to do. So it's a long video. If you stick with us here, you're awesome. Thanks so much for watching this. Hopefully you got something out of it. Hopefully it was helpful to some degree, and maybe there's something you can take away from, my mistakes and my critiques of myself that you can apply to your own stuff going forward. TradeZella, I'll leave a link down to that below. Any other resources that I use to track and trade and stuff, like always, in the description box. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.